If you wanted to ask me what one of my most favorite games of all time is, it would have to be Little Nightmares. A little fun horror game where you experience your childhood nightmares. Now I will explain why I like it so much and why you should play it, as well as give some tips for those that want to play. Now, let's start with the story. As the game's title suggests, we start off with a nightmare. I'll just let you enjoy this scene. And just like that, we meet our main playable character, Six, the little girl in the raincoat. Little Nightmares doesn't really have much of a story. There's no real cutscenes. None of the characters talk other than growls and little screams. Overall, this is mostly about the environment. We are located in an undersea vessel known as the Moor, which I'll give more details when we come to the enemies. And don't worry, I'm not gonna spoil the ending of this game, though I will reveal some major aspects of it. Though I do want to talk about the art style. I mean, this is a very pretty game. You can see all the major details, from these pipe wires to Six's yellow raincoat, and now to a scene that shows how big this place is. I mean, look at the atmosphere. Oh, it's so glorious. Now, let's talk about gameplay. Little Nightmares, in its core, is a puzzle game. You must find objects around the environment to use to get past the various things. For example, dragging this chair over this hanging body allows you to open the door. And as we see right about now, we open this fridge, which allows us to climb up. And yes, we can climb. We crawl out of this vent, we come across a strange creature. This is a gnome. They're basically little collectibles. Just come up to them and hug them. You can find these guys practically everywhere running away from you, though only select areas have these special ones. I just wanted to show you this little collectible. Anyway, back to the gameplay. And like most games, it has bottomless pits that you have to jump over. You can see here, we can also grab onto planks and pull them off. This is very helpful near the end of the game. You also have to pull levers to turn off the electricity, especially because of those electric gates. You can also pick up objects, which is very helpful for pushing buttons, like this. You also have to find keys to open locked doors. These are found in a variety of levels. Speaking of which, why don't we have a look at those right after she opens this door? There is over 5 levels in the game, as you see here. The levels' names are the prison, the first level in the game, also the home of the leeches. The lair, home of the janitor, the guy with the very, very long hands. the kitchen, home of the twin chefs, the guest area, where the guests come to feast, and finally the residence, where the final boss lairs. I guess you can say this place is a Resident Evil. You guys are no fun. On to the enemies. The first one is kind of underwhelming. Weird giant leeches. This is the introduction, and they're not really that threatening. However, since you're around the same size, you'll get eaten if they catch you. And I actually like this scene, where you're in a room filled with these disgusting parasitic beasts. And it's actually the best scene involving these creatures. They do show up later on in the level, but this is all I would talk about this enemy. Now on to something more interesting. And before we move on to the next enemy, there is something that is considered an enemy, though it only appears in this one stage. These things do not have any official name, but I call them Medusa Eyes. See that statue that looks like a child? Well, it wasn't always like that. You have to sneak past this thing. And if it sees you, you are nothing but stone. Actually come across a second one later in the same stage. But it's basically the same thing, except with more crates and this wheeling bucket. In fact, there's an easier way to get past these things without using the crate, and I'll show them right now. Since this game is kind of 3D, you can actually just go around them by sticking to the very corner of the screen. Though, you have to be careful. Here's the same thing, but with the second one. In fact, it might be even easier, since there's a large gap in between them, and it seems more curious on the wheelbarrow, or whatever that thing that is moving is called. You can actually get killed by a variety of things, falling off of high cliffs, getting crushed by stuff, getting eaten by slugs or captured by monsters, or being turned to stone by an eye. Maybe it's the fact that you're a vulnerable child. Maybe I'll review Limbo or Inside in the future. Who knows? The next enemy appears in slight cameos in the first area, like this. Now we encounter the beast face to face as we snuck into this room. And as you can see, he is completely and utterly blind. Do not make a single sound, for if he finds you, well, you do not want to know what he does to naughty children who escape their cages. Like I said, the second area is his lair. And eventually, when we climb up these stairs, we will see it. I will just say he has an interesting little house. Though, I would like you to experience it right now. Oh yeah, and there's also these geisha statues. If you find them, destroy them. They are another collectible. Anyway, let's watch 6. Go through this room, collect the key, and go to the next area. Eventually, you have to face him face to face, or ear to ear, since he doesn't have eyes. In this situation, you have to be quiet, so avoid creaking floorboards. Find any surface you can use to hide from the eyeless freak. I do not know why he is blind. Oh yeah, and fun fact, did you know this guy's name is Roger? Sometimes you have to make noise to get through, like in this example. If he does hear you and you have nowhere to hide, run! There's also another creature in this area, the mysterious shoe monster. I do not know exactly what it is, but it is frightening how fast it is. But it's only in this one area, so don't worry, it will not find you anywhere else. Think of it like hopscotch, you know, avoid the shoes and get on top of the suitcases. But we should really get back to the janitor. He is the main boss here. There are also areas where the janitor will just appear out of nowhere in these pre-planned chases. Just run to the end of these areas and you should escape him. Maybe you'll even find areas to hide. Just stay quiet and out of reach and he will not find you. And eventually something else will distract him. Just be quiet. He's also a weird collector of various things. Dolls, toys, books. You can practically find a variety of weird things in his lair. Anyway, coming up, there's another method you can use. You can also find things and throw them to distract him, like with that monkey. However, if you touch anything that makes noise, he will come. And if you do, get out of reach. This is actually my favorite encounter with the janitor, and you will see why in a moment. You have to wait until the clocks go off and then escape. If you're very clever and very fast, you can do it in the first time that happens. My second favorite bit with the janitor has to be this moment, the second last encounter before the fight. And you'll see why in a minute. This is what happens when you do make noise, but I was smart enough and fast enough to avoid it. Eventually, I managed to get on that stupid bookcase, and there are things up here that could attract him. But if you're careful, you should avoid it. Unlike me, as you'll see. Right here. And if you're wondering why I'm not on the floor, well, the floor creaks, and you know what happens when it creaks. Once you get on the other side, you have to climb up these books, and you'll find the key, as well as being locked in with a television. Just turn on the TV, and he will come. You can also find a variety of things by pressing this button. This one's my favorite. Just in time, he comes. Wait until he comes directly in front of the TV, and you will have him here. Just go back to the start and plug it in. Don't care about the creaking since it's the TV, so... However, this loud crane will attract him, so as soon as the piano is on the same level as you, jump on it before he captures you. That was so close. Before the final encounter, you have a pretty interesting scare, as well as challenge. Just wait until his arms move in the right direction, then run. I will not show you the final encounter, you have to experience that for yourself. Eventually, once you escape the janitor, in fact, you enter the third area, the kitchen. And, well, the name should pretty much tell you what you are facing. But, since this is a review, I will tell you what you need to know. you'll actually see one of those chefs smoking off in the distance. After a scene that I'll explain in greater detail later, we eventually come to the entrance to the kitchen, which you have to pull this body bag or whatever it is. Once you pull it here, climb up, and you shall enter the kitchen proper. There's also an Easter egg if you carry some ingredients to a pot, but I'm not gonna show that. Here we meet the ugliest chef I have ever met, cutting a steak and preparing the ingredients. He is a lot different from the janitor. Instead of hearing, this guy can actually see, so you have to hide from him. And that's what I'll do, hide, as well as show off various patterns he is known for. So I will not talk much here. Enjoy the little tour as well as hide and seek of the kitchen so far. See what I mean about gnomes being everywhere? Is there actually something called sausage stew? And if so, please tell me. What's he using at the moment? Can anyone tell me what he is doing with this fish? As you see right here, the door is locked, so you have to climb up here and get the key, which is in the chef's room. I think he should stop coughing over the food, especially nowadays. Wonder who catches all these fish. I mean, there's a swordfish and a shark. Someone must be catching all these fish and supplying these butchers their food. This is the first hint that there may be more than one. There's the key, now we have to get it. But, in our attempt to grab the key, we wake up the other chef. And now we have to deal with two of them. When he eventually leaves the room, grab the key and go to the locked door. this level also is the first time we see elevators, so expect that to come up later on. And like before, I will not talk that much during this scene, but there is an important part that I will bring up. I'll tell you when it is. See, he saw me, but eventually I managed to escape him. And in this scene, we see him reveal his true face. Anyway, time to move on. See, we come across the elevator once again, but this time, something comes down. This is actually my favorite encounter with the chefs, mainly for the fact of how many times we mess with him, as well as see what he does. This scene, where he took the elevator up and immediately hides as the chef realizes something is up. Now we follow him. He rips apart this piece of flesh. I do not know what it is, but it's probably human. I do not know what he is looking for, but this is still quite interesting. Remember those bags the janitor was packing when we encountered him? Well, those are the same ones, and it turns out they're made of children, so yeah, this is really messed up. Anyway, run 6, take the key, and let's get out of here! think you should be quiet around these guys as well. And there's actually two methods in hiding from the chef in this situation. You can either hide under there or grab the trash compartment, jump in, and run. The final scene before a big chase with the chefs, you have to go through the sinking area, or whatever you call this place. You know, where they clean the dishes, and you have to deal with both of them at the same time. Yeah. And you have to get a switch all the way in the back. So have fun when you go in this area. Now let's see how I do it. There are also broken plates scattered around. If you step on them, the chefs will immediately come for you. Just hit the reverse switch and there. The hooks should turn in the opposite direction. Since the chefs will know something has went wrong, but if you're fast enough, you should avoid them. Remember when I said that the moor is an underwater facility? If you do not believe me, watch this. Behold the outside world in all its beauty and majesty, and also watch as I accidentally fall into the ocean. And don't worry about dying, you just wake up a short distance from where you died, and now you see a little boat carrying some weird inhabitants. These are the guests, and this is the first time you ever see them, as well as just see how big the moor really is. I mean, it is huge! Huge! Eventually, you climb all the way to the top where you see the guests in a better light as they climb up the boardwalk. Perfectly leads into the guests, which we'll talk about, as well as a special lady. Eventually, you come to this little opening where you see the lady, as well as where these guests are going to. Be careful with this part, you can easily fall off, like right now. you can make that jump. Eventually, you will have to deal with the guests. And these guys just run. They're not that fast, and if they do catch you, you will get eaten! And they come in a variety of flavors, and they're practically everywhere. Now, I mean everywhere in this location. Though there is a little bit where I have to jump over these two. Try to catch me, you fat chick. There's a scene where you actually have to run back to avoid one of them, and then jump over him to get to the other side. I find this to be my favorite encounter, though there is one that comes close. Oh yeah, one of the chefs actually comes to this area, I guess to make more food. To avoid him, just run into this bathroom and hide. He will go away, and you will find a secret within here. Just grab that can and throw it at the window. And you should find this secret area which you can use to get past this part of the level. I do not know why they watch their guests in the bathroom, especially how unattractive they are. But I guess some people have weird preferences. And as you can see the chef right there. Just take down the elevator that he came in and you shall escape to the next part. And here is my favorite encounter, and it's also one of the last times you encounter the guests before the ending. I mean, look at this. It's a stampede. All the chaos and destruction as the music keeps going higher and higher and higher. And there's one part that you have to be very careful, and I will explain that when it comes up, which will be very soon. Just make sure to jump on the lantern or you'll fall to your death. Also, make sure you don't lag behind or they'll catch up to you. And here's what you should do, and they will stop chasing you. They cannot catch you from this distance. And finally, the lady, which I will not reveal that much, other than the fact that she runs the show here. You just have to find out what's behind these doors. I want my favorite character or monster in this game, and do you know who it is? I'm just gonna tell you. It is Six, the little girl you see going through all these horrible things. And though she does not talk, and your actions as a player may influence her, there are certain parts in the game where you get to see her inner torment. As you go through, she gets hungry. which eventually makes her more weak. And as she walks, she gets hungrier, and hungrier, and hungrier, until a little boy, feeling sorry for her, gives her a piece of bread, and something dark appears. Notice the dark figure in the corner? This entity is only known as Dark 6, and it only appears when she eats something, and her hunger eventually gets her into a very sticky situation. I'll just let this scene play out for you to understand. You see the dark apparition. But after that, the janitor appears and locks her up. Which leads to a little escape scene, where you have to break out of this cage. Just watch how you escape. Then things get really dark as you eat a live rat. I mean, imagine eating one of these things. It would be disgusting. But then again, I would like to try rat. Would you? Final one of these scenes happens right after the chase with the guests. Very fitting. And this one, well, let's just say this goes so far into darkness that the lights go out. Friendly little gnome wanting to give her a sausage, but, well, I guess you can say 6, 8, 9. And now you have become the little nightmare. There is one more in the final stage, but you have to see that for yourself. And that is everything, except for the ending. And overall, I think this game is pretty cool. I think the only problem is, well, it's too short. You get to the ending way too fast. And I mean way too fast. There's only really 5 chapters, and they're not that very long. And yeah, it's a pretty simple game. There's a lot of mystery to it. And if you guys want, I can review the app Very Little Nightmares, and I am definitely going to review the sequel, which is coming out very soon, next year in fact. In fact, if enough of you like this video over 600 times, I will review the DLC that is also in here. Wouldn't that be good? Oh yeah, and if you find all the geisha statues and smash them, you get a special prize. A mask for 6. You can also buy more masks in the online store, and overall that is everything Little Nightmares has to offer. What did you think of this video? Subscribe if you want to see more content from myself. And remember, if you can get this video up to 600 likes, I will do the DLC review. And trust me, those are pretty interesting, especially in terms of gameplay and a brand new playable character. Anyway, if you stick around to the end of these credits, I will reveal a secret. Anyway, bye! Oh yeah, I also like to talk, so if any of you want to talk to me, leave a comment down below. Anyway, that is truly everything, so goodbye! The story of Little Nightmares is still going on. Whatever happens in the future may discover the history of this weird world. But until then, we have the mysteries in front of us. Whatever you think of this game, write down in the comments on what your opinions on this mystery is.